see you guys in the dark.
This happened in the year 1989, when I was 9 years old. I lived in a middle-class neighborhood in Forest, Virginia. It was a Mayberry-like neighborhood. Most everyone knew each other. No crime, lots of families. Not everyone locked their doors at night. There were lots of kids my age in the neighborhood, but the two on my street were my closest friends, Mitchell and Chase. The three of us were sort of a clique. Whenever a new kid moved into the neighborhood, we liked to go see him together to see what he was like and decide if he was cool or not. That year, a new family moved into a house near the end of the street. They had just one child, a boy named Parker. We invited him out to play a few times, and he seemed pretty cool. So before long, he was almost one of the gang. Parker's mom was attractive, blonde, slim, always smiling. However, his dad was not a friendly man. He seemed annoyed by us kids, rarely spoke to us, and mostly just acknowledged us with eye rolls and grunts. He also didn't come outside much. He worked nights, so we didn't see him often during the week, and on weekends, he was mostly banging around in his garage. One Saturday afternoon in the fall, Mitch and Chase were both far away for some reason, so I went over to Parker's house alone to see if he wanted to play. He said his parents weren't home and invited me inside. That was a really strange experience for me. At 9, my parents never left me alone. They would call a babysitter over if they were going to be gone for even an hour. I asked Parker why he was home alone and made no secret that I was weirded out by that. But he seemed totally fine with it, like it happened all the time, so that put me at ease. We watched TV for a few minutes, then abruptly, Parker got off the couch and said, "Hey, you want to see something cool?" "Sure," I said. He led me down to the basement and pointed to a tool chest against the wall. There and here, Parker opened the bottom cupboard drawer of the tool chest, revealing a huge stack of Playboys. There had to have been 50 or 60 issues in there. I had no idea what I was looking at. I had never seen a naked woman before. The closest I had come was seeing the scantily clad Tanya Roberts in the movie The Beastmaster. I remember watching that movie and being vaguely intrigued by the female form. But what I saw in the Playboys was sort of repulsive. It wasn't necessarily the images of naked women that churned my stomach, but the dank and musty smell of the basement, the dim lights, the crinkled, stiff, flaky feel of the magazine pages, as if the moisture of the basement was slowly turning them to pulp. It just felt wrong and gross, and I wanted to leave. Still, I couldn't stop looking. I'd flip through one magazine, toss it back, then flip through another one. Somehow I had this strange notion that I was getting something valuable for free. So I needed to cram as much into my brain as I could. Finally, Parker said, "We better get out of here. My mom will be home soon. You can tear some of the pictures out and take them home if you want." I ripped out one of the centerfolds and stuffed it into my pocket. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't want it for any self-gratification purpose. I just had an idea that I could use it to impress Mitchell and Chase later on. When I got home, I stuffed the balled-up centerfold in the back corner of my closet under some toys, despite not having a deep understanding of what it was. Pornography. I was certain that if my mom found it, I'd be in big trouble. I went to sleep like normal that evening, but woke abruptly in the middle of the night to a rough hand shaking my shoulder. I immediately knew something was wrong, because neither of my parents would have woken me up so firmly. Plus there was a terrible smell, a rank combination of alcohol and motor oil. I opened my eyes, and with the aid of my bedside nightlight, recognized Parker's dad standing over me. In my own house. In my room. I wanted to cry out for my dad, but the man glared down at me with so much hatred, so much fury, I was paralyzed. I was certain that if I did cry out, he'd twist my head off my neck. "You stole from me, you little fucker," he said in this low voice, low enough not to wake my parents in the other room, but in the quiet of my room, the words rang clear as a bell. His use of the F word was what really struck me. No adult had ever used the F word on me. Combined with his tone, expression, and body language, that word just cut me to the bone. "I want it back," he said. Numbly, my heart hammering, I quietly and obediently went to the closet and dug out the balled-up centerfold from beneath a pile of Ninja Turtles. I held it out to him, and he snatched it. At this point, he went on a low, whispery rant at me, including a lecture about thievery and personal property. I don't remember all of it, but it went along the lines of, "I'll tell your parents. I'll call the cops. You'll go to juvie, yada yada." But he said two phrases I distinctly remember. One was, "Don't ever come in my house again. Don't even step foot in my yard again." And the other was something that was so strange, said with so much sincerity, that it burned into my memory and still haunts me to this day. "Don't ever look at this shit ever again," as he clenched his fist around the balled-up centerfold. "It'll turn you into something you don't want to be." Then he turned and walked silently out of my room. I was so creeped out at how silently he slipped away. Our floors were carpeted, but he literally made no sound as he disappeared down the hall into the darkness like some malicious Santa Claus. It was like he had lots of previous practice at sneaking around, which I found even more disturbing. When I thought back on the incident during the following years, it was that sneaking which haunted me most of all, even more than the lecture and the threats. How quietly and stealthily he moved, like the Grinch in that cartoon, but not with that big cartoony stride, like I would never be safe from him no matter where I went in life. Like any time I went to sleep, he would just appear right there without a sound, and I'd never hear him coming. The aftermath of this story is a whole story in itself. I won't get into all of the details. I'll just try to summarize. No sign of force entry or evidence of him being there was ever found by me or anyone else. I never told anyone until I got really close to a few good friends my freshman year of high school. My parents never found out about the incident. I was convinced I would be in so much trouble if they ever found out that I just figured it was better to live in fear than face the consequences. Obviously, Parker's dad never mentioned it to them either, but of course, he wouldn't. That trespassing creeper. I'm 35 years old now and have a good relationship with them, but I still can't bring myself to tell them what happened that night. I was emotionally damaged for a while. I had fear and anxiety and shyness issues. My grades slipped badly that year. I had a hard time sleeping at night after that, and was tired all the time because I had chronic nightmares. My parents got me some prescription sleep aids. I couldn't sleep in the dark again until I was 15 or 16. I always had to have a lamp on my bedside. I couldn't go near Parker's end of the street from then on, much less in his yard or his house. My parents drove me by the house. I would simply point my head towards the opposite side of the street and pretend to be looking out the window. My family moved 2 years later in 1991, and I never saw Parker again after that. I asked my dad sometime later if he always locked the doors at night. He said yes, most of the time, but sometimes I did forget. I asked him if he made sure that the windows were locked at night, and he said no. Sometimes your mom opens them and forgets to lock them back when she closes them. So that answers the question as to how the creeper probably got inside that night. I still get queasy when I see porn. On one hand, like any red-blooded male, images on the internet of attractive women wearing no clothing catches my eye. But when I really start to stare and get into the moment, the fear of that night starts creeping back in. Unanswered questions. How did he even find out I had the page? Had he gotten home, seen his magazines weren't in proper order, and grilled Parker about it? Why the hell would this guy make such a fuss and go to some extreme measures just to retrieve one torn-out page of an old Playboy? It makes no sense. What did he mean by, "It will turn you into something that you wouldn't want to be"? A trespasser? An asshole who terrorizes kids? A porn addict? Was what he did to me that night, in some weird way, his twisted attempt to try to do something altruistic to me? To warn me off from becoming like him? How does a guy have that much balls? Seriously. My parents were asleep one room away. My dad was a big dude, bigger than him, and my dad would have thrown that man through a wall if he had caught him in my room in the middle of the night. Regardless. Malicious Santa Claus, overprotective porn collector, terrorizer of children, source of my nightmares, and scar on my childhood. Let's not meet again. At the time of this story, I was around 3 or 4 years old. I'm now 18. I'm a blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl, and have always liked to think of myself as a pretty nice person. A little backstory to my situation. I was living with my mom
grandmother, and aunt in a duplex located in a fairly large city. Believe it or not, the city that I happen to live in didn't have a whole lot of creepy people, or my family was just very good at keeping me from the side of the world. My mom had recently got out of an abusive relationship with this guy who had happened to be my dad, and we were going through a pretty rough patch. A few more months had passed, and it was Christmas time. On this particular day, my mom and I were at the store buying some groceries. It was a completely normal trip. That was until we got to the end of it, and we stood in line to check out, and some lady was on her way in, and when she noticed me, she had decided to approach. She was probably in her late 30s or early 40s, with long brown hair that reached about the middle of her back. She was a little shorter than my mom, which is about 5'10", and was pretty skinny, and smiled. I assumed it was supposed to be warming, but it was far from it. She said hello in a semi-friendly tone. I had smiled back, said hello, trying to be polite. I tried to scoot closer to my mom, but there was a cart in between us. This woman then started asking me questions, such as, "How old are you? Is that your mom?" Things like that. Part of me found no harm in answering her questions, and the other part was hoping if I gave her what she wanted, she would just leave me alone. I told her what she wanted to know, and she continued to get closer and closer with every single minute. She then asked me if I had seen Santa yet. My youth eyes grew wide, and my heart had raced, excitement getting the better of me. I told her that I hadn't, and asked where he was. She explained that he was in the back of the store, and that she could take me to him. Before she could get another word in, I turned to my mom and asked her loudly if I can go with this person to go see Santa. She looked at me confused, and then realized the woman standing there, and you could see her mama bear attitude start to kick in. She smiled, obviously, annoyed at this person standing uncomfortably close to her kid, and then started talking directly to the stranger, letting her know that we were going to the mall soon to take pictures with him anyways, and that she appreciates the offer, and it wouldn't be necessary. She quickly paid for our food and started to push the cart out for between me and the woman, and then insisted that it was no big deal, and that she would bring me back as soon as I got to see him. She then proceeded to grab my arm lightly, tugged me in one way. My mom became horrified as she rushed to my side, lifted me into the cart, insisted we didn't need her help. The woman then had the audacity to tell my mom to suit herself in an annoying tone, turned to heel out of the store, not shopping at all. She never had a cart or a handheld basket at all. I have since moved from that city and moved out to be on my own, and have luckily never seen this woman again, and have been lucky enough to not run into any more situations like this. I think back to the scenario every once in a while and think of what could have happened had I not asked my mom to go with this stranger, or if she had grabbed my arm more forcefully and pulled me without having any care of what kind of attention she would get. I'm glad that the situation had played out how it did, though.
I drive for Lyft while putting myself through trade school. I drive for other similar companies, but that's beside the point. I have many horror stories for those as well, but I'll tell these another time. It was Christmas Eve of 2020. I was out running Lyft for a few hours before heading to my mom's with my new baby and wife. Nothing special going on for that night, just the usual. I get a ride request. It was a pickup from this kind of lower income apartment complex. No big deal. I drive, and I find my passenger. He has all his belongings, several boxes of stuff. Now my car is a 2006 Chevy Impala, so it's not too big. We get all of his stuff loaded up, barely, and we are on our way. During the ride, he's crying, saying his girlfriend was cheating on him, and he had to walk in on them earlier that night. He couldn't stay there because it was her name on the lease. So I was taking him to a hotel. Now in my city, we have a street that is well known for having vices. Hookers, drugs, gangs, weapons, and shady motels. The works. We get to the motel. He asks me to wait for him to check in and get his key. No problem, man, I say. I'll confess, I break the rules a little when it comes to Lyft. I have a gun hidden in a concealed holster secured to the underside of the driver's seat for protection. Reason being, driving Lyft and other contract apps, I've had knives and guns pulled on me, as well as people have tried to fight me, rob me, and all kinds of other things. But like I said, another time. This motel was on that street that I mentioned before. Homeless people were everywhere. There was a dude on the far corner of the complex that still had a needle in his arm, passed out against the building. And I'm a big fan of true crime and horror narrations, so I'm on edge. He gets this key. The whole motel is ground level. So to help the guy out, I drive to his door. As I mentioned before, he had a lot of stuff. So I started trying to help him unload. While on my second trip getting stuff, I saw a guy come out of the room just to the south of my car, followed by 2 ladies. They came up to the room that I was next to. One of the ladies pounded on the door and then opened it. That's when I saw the guy raise a fucking shotgun up of his long coat and storm into the room. The 2 ladies followed his and slammed the door behind them. Following, I heard a lot of yelling and shouting. I was just waiting for shots to ring out. Out of nowhere, my passenger came up behind me. I can take this, man. Go ahead and take off. Have a Merry Christmas. And he gave me a cash tip. I didn't even notice that he took the boxes out of my hand or slid a $5 bill into my pocket. I was frozen. I knew what may have been going down in that room, but I had to leave, and or at least get to where I can get to my gun. I know the guy and both ladies saw me, and I know that they knew that I saw the gun. I had to get out of there. You know, no witnesses whatsoever. I had to get in my car and speed away quickly. I got a block away or so and called the cops. Gave them every single detail that I could. After I got off the phone with the police, I signed out of a Lyft. I hadn't made much money, but I was done for the night.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.